Hello, and let's talk about gold again. Last time we talked about gold was on 26th of August right here, when I expected a decline down into the short-term daily cycle low, followed by a bounce within a few weeks. Gold has done exactly that so far, and there's a very good chance, perhaps around a 70% chance, that the second daily cycle started at the beginning of September at the recent low. Daily cycles in gold usually last for over 1.5 to around 2 months, and the recent low implies a 42-day long cycle, which is just a little bit short but close enough to an average duration. RSI at the recent low came close to 30, which is usually low enough for a daily cycle low. For example, we see a similar low on RSI at the daily cycle low in mid-May, but for an intermediate cycle low, like in July, RSI usually drops well into oversold area. Of course, nobody knows the future, and gold could continue down after this possible bear flag over here forming since the beginning of September. But I would give this scenario of another drop down only perhaps around 30% chance. And a higher local high that's above 1727 or so would be another sign for a new daily cycle and against this bear flag formation. The short-term daily cycle on US dollar is 29 days old, and this usually lasts for 2 months or so. So the daily cycle might actually turn down within, say, 1 or 2 weeks. The intermediate cycle in US dollar is a bit tricky. On one hand, it's already very long, suggesting an intermediate cycle low back in August. In that case, as a new intermediate cycle is still young, a short-term drop in the US dollar will be modest and will be quickly followed by a recovery into the second daily cycle. But I would give this scenario perhaps around a 40% chance. I think it's more likely that the August low was not the intermediate cycle low in US dollar, suggesting a sharper drop down into an intermediate cycle low is still coming relatively soon, at least based on how stretched this intermediate cycle already is. Another thing to notice here is that while the US dollar has been going up so far in September, so has the gold price. Gold trending up with the US dollar when they usually go in opposite directions is very promising for gold, especially a little later as this US dollar short-term daily cycle gets a little bit older soon. So the most likely scenario on gold is a rally into the second short-term daily cycle of the ongoing intermediate cycle. And as before, I still think that $1,840, $1,840 on gold price can provide resistance and perhaps make the top of the second daily cycle. And by the time the second daily cycle finishes with a cycle low, the intermediate cycle will already be nearly 4 months old. So there might not be enough time left within the remainder of that intermediate cycle for a strong rally, say above $2,000 before this intermediate cycle has to decline down into its cycle low. And lastly, on a side note, as I have mentioned, I've been bullish on energy recently. I gotta say that while I still like crude oil in the longer term, I and the members at myfinanceteacher.org partially stopped out of our holdings in crude oil just before all of this recent drop. But as the crude oil cycle gets closer to its end, perhaps over the next 1 or 2 to 3 weeks, I am looking forward to reaccumulate very soon. For much more details on a range of assets, including the general stock market, which is going crazy haywire at the moment, and I do have some interesting ideas for the stock market, as well as for a range of commodities, precious metals, and cryptos, check us out at myfinanceteacher.org. The membership is only $5 for the first month and $10 after that, so it's basically nothing, especially in the current inflationary environment. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.